2021. I'd like to open up this meeting right now. We will have, this is a meeting that is a virtual hybrid meeting. We have Commissioner Julie Martin on virtually on Zoom. We have Commissioner Mayor Pro Tem Felicia Harris on Zoom, and also Commissioner Johnny Cason on Zoom. Joining me here in Old City Hall is Commissioner Vincent Williams. As I said, it's a hybrid meeting. It is also streamed live at Facebook and also on City of Brunswick Zoom website. As I call to order, we will have an invocation led by Commissioner Vincent Williams, and the Pledge of Allegiance, I will lead that. So let's please rise if you're here in the Old City Hall, present for the invocation.
Let us pray. Eternal God, our Father, we come now, we pause and we say thank you for this day. Father, we thank you for this beautiful city that we call home. We ask now that as we come to do the business of this city, Father God, that you give us wisdom, that you would crown us with knowledge and understanding. Father God, that we make decisions that are best for this community. Father, we just thank you for your hand on this community. Continue to bless us and keep us in your care. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all who have come to join us this evening. Before I get started, are there any addition or deletion added to our agenda for this evening?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a couple of additions to our agenda. Under city attorney's items, I'd like to add item number 11, consider the approval of a location permit agreement between the city of Brunswick and Komoyo Productions 2 LLC.
I have a motion. Can I get a second?
Can we have further explanation on this, please?
City attorney will give you explanation.
I'm not sure if anyone is aware, but it has been in the news recently that there will be a large movie production being filmed in Brunswick. They've started advertising for extras and have submitted and approved or received their approved DNR permits. So it'd be filming located at Mary Ross Park. And this agreement is an agreement between the production company, which is Komoyo Productions 2 LLC, and the city of Brunswick.
Thank you.
Yes, I heard about that, and I was wondering why we hadn't heard about that.
Yes, so we all, a few of us heard about it, but now I think it's coming. I think they had to get the permits to do that. So do I have a second on that?
I'll make a second.
Thank you. It's been properly motion second for us to add to our agenda under the city attorney items, item number 11, permit agreement with the city of Brunswick and Komodo Production, Inc. Are there any further questions or comments? I'm glad we got that all straight. So thank you for city attorney for putting that straight there. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. Aye. Opposers have the same right. Hearing nothing from the opposing side, I believe that motion carries.
Also,
Thank you.
Also, Mr. Mayor, under city attorney's items, I'd like to add item number 12, consider the approval of the city of Brunswick submission to the statewide mutual aid and assistance agreement.
Before there's a motion, I'd be happy to give a brief explanation of
Please do
this
so.
as well. There is presently in the state of Georgia a large pool of cities and counties that have submitted these agreements. These agreements are templates provided by the Georgia Emergency Management Agency, GEMA. So this is a template agreement that would allow the city of Brunswick to enter into that pool so that if in the event there is a need for mutual aid beyond that of our mutual aid agreement with Glen County, the city would be able to call upon the other participants in this mutual aid agreement pool. We felt that it would be an appropriate time to put this agreement in place and join in that group. The same agreement will be considered by Glen County at their meeting tomorrow night.
So this is regional,
It is statewide.
statewide. Thank you. I'm sorry if I missed that.
Okay, I have a motion. I need a second to add this to our agenda.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Martin. All right, it's been properly motion and second to add to our agenda on the item number 12, under the city attorney item, approval for mutual aid agreement statewide with, I believe, GEMA, mutual aid and assistance agreement, excuse me. Are there any further questions, comments about it? Adding it to our agenda. We would discuss it when we get to the city attorney. No questions or comments. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. Aye. Those in opposed, please say so. Hearing nothing from the opposing side, I believe the ayes have it, and motion carries. Okay, are there any other additions or deletions added or deleted from our agenda this evening?
Mayor,
Yes.
I don't have an addition or deletion, but I did want to just make a quick announcement. I did hire an HR manager for the city, and she is virtually at the meeting this evening. Her name is Sagrario Thomas, and Ms. Thomas will be starting employment on October 25th.
Okay, thank you, City Manager. Ms. Thomas, we would like for you to come and I guess we all need to meet you. We want to do that. It's something being virtual, but in person is really something that I'm sure we'll get a chance to meet you. I'll put it like that. We will come up to City Hall and get a chance to say hello to you. And thank you for joining our team.
Thank you for having me.
Right, this is the best team in the world right here. I tell you, it is. Only the best comes here. So thank
That's
you.
why I'm coming.
All right. Any other thing we need to do before we get into our agenda this evening? All right, let's move right along. Our first item on our agenda is a presentation. Supervisor of Board of Elections and Registration, Christopher Chanel, to give a presentation regarding proposed redistricting of city ward boundaries. Sir, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I think you're all aware of what we're doing at the county level with the district maps on the commissioner districts and the school board member districts. And while we were doing that, we just kind of did a little check on see where the city of Brunswick's distribution was. The census has the city of Brunswick at 15,210 persons. And you divide your wards into two, and that's only for the purpose of really selecting your candidates for office. You elect everybody citywide, so that really doesn't come into play. So the only thing you're really looking at considering tonight is whether you want to equalize the North Ward and South Ward, so that way when you have people that are interested in running for office, there will be an equal pool from the north and an equal pool from the south that would be looking at running for office. So that's the only thing you're really looking at tonight. I'm going to see if I can share the screen real quick. Can everybody see that map?
Yes.
Okay, that is your current breakdown between the North Ward and the South Ward. As you can see, there's 8,384 census data people in the north, 6,826 in the south. So that's about a 1,558 difference between the north and the south. What we just went through and made a few adjustments and came up with one that is a lot more. Well, let's see, get the right one here. Okay, this is a proposed split that would bring your total down to about 38 people difference between the North and the South Ward. As you can see, the line is a little bit more jagged going across, and I don't believe the state requires the wards to actually be in balance. I think that's just something that would be nice for the city of Brunswick to look at doing. We don't have to have the within 1% deviation that the county has to do for the county commission districts. So we could draw that line a little bit straighter across there if that's something you guys want to look at. But I just want to put that out there to see if you guys want to do some type of redistricting at this time to better equalize your wards. Let's see, where's the.
Well, it's always been that L Street seemed to be our dividing line for North and South Ward. I guess it's gratifying to say that District 1 has gained a number of residents. I guess swapping from District 2 to District 1. Go ahead, I'm sorry, I just interject that.
No, yeah, you're right. It's nice to have one line across the city that you can say, a lot easier than the jagged line you would see in this proposed map. You have the current breakdown and what the breakdown would go to.
Have up is the current map that I'm looking at.
Do you want me to go back to the current map?
That is
you got the current map
that you have up.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to think. Let's see. Yeah, let me see if I can.
I mean, to be honest with you, the amount of purple in District 2, I'm not sure why all the marshland is incorporated in there because it's uninhabitable. So
Yeah.
there's a huge swath
based on the
the
city
east and the west that really doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
Right.
that's just the city map. That's the city boundaries. So
Okay.
you're going to have that in there. It just goes out there. We have to follow the kind of the census blocks that they provide us. So that's all the census blocks that are within the city limits.
Interesting. Thank
The
you.
problem is if you do nothing, which is an option you guys can do, but I think the North Ward still has more potential for growth for all the apartment complexes and stuff that they are kind of building on the north end of the thing. So if you do nothing, that number is going to continue to grow, out of shape for at least the next 10 years until you guys look at census map district redistricting again. So
we let it stay the same, it'll stay that way for 10 years, that's what you're saying, right?
right, or unless because the city isn't really bound by redistricting. You guys can do it via home rule. It's nothing that the state comes in and I think will mandate you to do. It's nothing that I think you have to send to the state to be approved. It's something you would do by home rule, and you would just rewrite that into your municipal code.
What's the advantages or disadvantages then? I mean, why? What difference does it make at this point?
At this, it'd be like say if I were, so I live out by exit 29, but if I were to move into the city of Brunswick and I had interest for running for city council, city commission position, I'm going to move into the South Ward because there's a lot lower population that could potentially run against me as a candidate. Whereas if I'm in the North Ward, I'm going to have a lot larger pool to run against. And I think if you look at this election, you can see that we've got 4 North Ward candidates, and we've only got 1 unopposed South Ward candidate. And that may just be because Mayor Pro Tem is so good that nobody wants to run against her. But it's just a way of kind of evening out the pool of selection. Now, one thing I need to point out is everybody that is currently qualified as a candidate for the North Ward is still in the North Ward, proposed North Ward. And even if you can straighten that line out, I don't think any of those qualified candidates would be affected by the line drawn.
So did you say there was a proposed change? Do you have a diagram of that?
The proposed map, let me see if I can pull that one up, just a second.
It's in the packet if you have.
It's a jagged,
Okay.
jagged map.
It's not that much of a difference.
No.
Yeah.
It's not.
So I don't see where, because it's not that much of a difference.
If you can see, this is L Street right here. And so it kind of pushes up on this side here.
Well, we can't see your.
Oh, I can't see that. Okay.
No.
Have it on the screen. But it's in our package, everybody. If you look
Yeah.
to.
That's in the package.
look in your
Right.
package.
If you look at the west side,
Yeah,
instead of Newcastle 25 or 341 coming all the way down to L Street, it starts to the east on T Street. And then it goes over to Newcastle, goes south to O Street over to MLK south to M Street east to Tillman, then Tillman south to Stadium Street, and then Stadium Street east to Cook Street. And then Cook Street, it goes back up north to Panova Drive, because that kind of jigs around that Panova complex. So it kind of don't go a straight line across there, but you could realistically draw that straight line across all the way to the Dupree Creek, because there's nobody that will live in that area anyway. So you could straighten that line on that side of the map easily. And then that would go south of the causeway, and the causeway to the city limits is what the new map would be proposed to be.
And right now, you just run east and west from L Street to Newcastle to Terry Creek there.
Right. It goes from the T Street as where it is, and it goes down Newcastle to L Street, and L Street over to Stadium Street, and then it kind of curves and goes east to K Street, and then K Street goes out to 17, and then 17 on your current map goes all the way to that south entrance ramp going northbound toward the causeway, whereas we would have it right at the intersection on the proposed map. So that's the only real difference there.
I don't think any residential movement off of down near 17 anyhow, I don't think. I think it's.
Yeah, there may be like one house right in there, but it's I don't think it can.
Okay. Yeah, it is. It's one. There's a boarding house
Yeah.
there.
So it's kind of in your court if you guys want to do a change, or if you guys want a little bit cleaner map that gets it closer but not exactly perfect. When we did our maps, we were tasked by the state to get within 1% deviation. And so when I did your map, I kind of had the same concept in mind to try to get within 1% deviation. And this map actually goes to within 0.05 deviation of 1%. So this is about as close as you can possibly get it working with the census blocks. And we could just loosen that up and try to make that a little bit straighter if that's something you want. I mean, this map here took me maybe 10, 15 minutes total to make. So it's something that can be changed pretty quickly.
Well, the fact that we are at large really.
We have to decide, Chris.
Yeah, when it's time.
This isn't our time limit for you guys, because you would do it by home rule. The county is kind of under a time frame with the state, because we need to have those maps in so that they can be included in the state legislation next year. Whereas you guys would just be doing this as via home rule and your city attorney.
So you say we could have done this 2 years ago if we wanted to, really?
I believe there's nothing that would limit you from making these changes on the fly.
It's basically up to us as a commission to decide how we would set our boundaries.
That's correct.
Correct.
City's charter 2-11 right now divides the city into 2 wards and has the language in there that sets forth the line along L Street and Stadium Street.
So
So
we can reset it.
it would be an amendment to the city's charter, yes.
All right.
so it could be looked at and reviewed every 2 years, or,
Whenever we get ready, Julie.
Yeah,
okay,
I don't think you would need to necessarily do it every 2 years unless you had a drastic change in growth that you think is something you need to look at, and then you could probably revisit it. But I wouldn't. I'd say I would put it on a 10-year rotation plan and just look at it every 10 years and see if it's something you want to touch or not. You know, I didn't know when I looked at this how far it would be off, and right now that 1,500 is quite a big number. And if you want to just get closer, that's one thing, or it's kind of up to you guys.
how will this affect, and maybe you can't answer this, our precincts? In other words, where people go to vote? And
It won't affect that at all. The redistricting we're doing with the county may affect where people go to vote, but what you guys do here will not, because I will probably, because if you look at the top north part of Brunswick, I don't know who was drawing those lines, but I don't know, my kindergartner could have done better than that, I think.
We agree. Yeah.
Yeah, so everybody that's in the College Place voting district currently will probably remain in that College Place voting. I'm gonna try to keep that one as exactly what it is now. It'll shift a little bit based for people who if they shift from Commission District 5 to Commission District 4. But that has yet to be seen, and when we got to wait to kind of see where the state comes in with their House district map. But most of the precincts in the city of Brunswick are going to stay pretty close to the same. No matter what you guys do, it's what the county does.
I've got an idea. Why don't we ask Regina and to put together a task force and take a look at this and bring it back to us?
Great idea, Commissioner Case.
I think we need to look at it a little closer, and I think their eye would really serve us well. And, I would recommend planning and public works and our attorney to look at it.
Well, I tend to agree with you on that. I was going to suggest that myself. But it's up to this commission to decide how you want to set your boundaries, even though we're nonpartisan and we also are at large, really. But it could be something that we want to look at. So
There may be a better way. I think we've got it pretty good, but to match the population up might be significant somewhere down the road.
okay. What you say, Commissioner, is that's something you would like to do?
I would. I think, having discussion and letting people have some input is always a good thing. Yeah. There's nothing pressing, so I think we have the opportunity to be able to do that.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, any comment?
No, I don't have a problem with it.
All right. Commissioner Williams?
I have no problem at all. Can be done later on. It was just for discussion pretty much.
Yes.
I understand, so you don't have to make a decision tonight.
No.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the task force. I'm taking a closer look at it.
Okay. City Manager, do you understand our directive?
Yes, I will just kind of research what the impacts may be or what potential impacts and put together a group. I was going to ask if there would, any of the commission would like to participate in the process.
I would like for you would select at least one commissioner to at least one to be on that task force with you. Doesn't matter.
Do you think it should be somebody from the North Ward necessarily, or what? I'm just curious what the thoughts are on that. If we're picking one.
My thoughts are that you all, as elected official, have certain concerns and things like that. And I don't think it's necessarily indicative to the ward. It's just because of how you address your constituency and those type things. So any input from the elected side of would be helpful.
Okay. I think that's fine. Yeah.
Well, you guys could let me do it. I'll be out of office and I can decide. You got to live with what I say.
You would have no bias, right?
It was?
You would have no bias, right?
Yeah, I have no bias at all. Okay, all right. So our city manager will take care of that, and she will select us. We'll ask Commissioner to sit on that panel as well to bring something back before us.
What is the time frame that the expectation for us to come back with information?
I would say, I'm just speaking for myself, before the end of the year, before I get out of office, please.
He wants to have a bias.
I don't have a bias at all, but before I get out of office.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Harvey, one thing, we have this mapping program software through the end of November. So if we can get an idea by then, I can produce you maps. If you go beyond November, the end of November, then we'll have to rely on your IT staff in the city of Brunswick to kind of draw your maps for you. And I mean, if we're looking at just a straight line or something like that, that'd be a lot easier for them, but we'll be able to give you some breakdowns on numbers and such on whatever line you guys want to draw if you just get that information to us, okay?
Great. We appreciate all the help you can give us. That's a testament of how we work together in this community. So thank you, Mr. Chanel, for that.
Thank you for your time.
Any further comments you have?
Yeah, I would just say it probably would be good for the Board of Elections to meet with our group and probably nip it in the bud real quick. Just a suggestion.
We'd be willing to do that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well, we'll work toward that end.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna move right along. Thank you again, Ms. Chanel, for giving us a presentation concerning that, realizing that that this is something that's very important to our whole community. So thank you so very much for that. All right, item number 2, public hearing, zoning ordinance amendment, amendment to chapter 23 of the Code of City of Brunswick pertaining to zoning, particularly the provision related to signs and advertising devices. Mr. Hunter is here presented.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Commissioners. As y'all know, we've been working over the last few months on our ordinance revision project. Back in the spring, we did a workshop with the City Commission, actually 2 workshops with the City Commission, going over proposed changes and clarifications within our sign ordinance. We brought that back to you from the Planning Commission for approval back in June. And at that time, we found some more work that needed to be done. And we completed that. As you may know, working with the city attorney and the Georgia Municipal Association. So now we are bringing this ordinance back to the City Commission. I'm not going to read through the whole ordinance, thankfully, but I will highlight some changes that have been made during this process. They're relatively few. Our real concentration was making the definitions more modern and compiling all the information so that it was easier to use. So there were very few changes throughout this ordinance. All the definitions relating to signs previously that were in other areas of our ordinance were all brought into the sign ordinance, so it was easy to find. The types of signs that require no permit have been clarified, and the following types were added. And again, these are not needing permits: flags, holiday decorations for no more than 60 days, incidental signs like building numbers, entrance signs, and exit signs, building interior signs, menus posted on the facade of a restaurant, reserved parking signs, signs erected by government, including interpretive signs, real estate signs not exceeding 6 square feet in size, or open house signs, shopping cart return signs, string lights for holiday decorations and or building identification, towing and traffic control signs, window signs, as long as they do not exceed 25% of the window area or 4 square feet. So those are signs that do not need a permit. Permitted signs by type, we simply reorganized that section to make it easier to find the type of signs permitted for specific uses. And we created summary tables so that on basically 2 pages, you can get your information about what type of sign you can have and where you can have it. But there were a couple of changes. There are no freestanding signs permitted in local commercial zoning. We also proposed allowing changeable copy signs in general commercial and highway commercial. Sign design and placement plans would now be required for multi-tenant or users in commercial and office parks. So if you've got a development that has 10 commercial units in it, you'd have a single unified sign at the road with all the tenant information on it instead of 4 or 5 signs out by the street. Technically, that's what most people do for commercial development, but it wasn't actually in our code. So we added that in. Within the design standards section, this section was redrafted and reorganized by use and type of sign to make requirements relevant to each user application. Those design standards took all of our setback and location requirements and put them all in one area and in one chart. Took all of the size and height and design elements for all of our signs and put them in one area instead of spread out through different portions of the ordinance. And all of this then information was all included in a user chart as well. Essentially, within all of this, there were no major significant changes in the design standards. Really, it consolidated the information and made it easier to read. Since you saw those revisions in June, we did make additional changes. And this was to clarify language involving billboards. Previously, the ordinance made a distinction in language on the signs to classify them as on-site advertising or off-site advertising. Guidance was provided that this type of distinction could pose a First Amendment issue. And as we would be regulating the content of the sign, not the location. With this in mind, a definition of billboard was created. Billboard is a freestanding sign which exceeds 35 feet in height and or 301 square feet of sign surface area. Then the subsequent change that took place within the ordinance to clarify things was to remove the term on-site or off-site sign and replace it with billboard where it was appropriate. So that is a quick summary of the changes to the sign ordinance over the last few months. The planning staff and the Planning and Appeals Commission are happy to be bringing this back to you. It's taken quite a deal of work to get it to this point. And at this point, we can open it up for a public hearing to have any other feedback from our constituents. And Brian, do you have anything to add?
I do not.
Before we open it up to public, Commissioner, are there anything you want to, any questions for Mr. Hunter?
I have one, and that would be in regards to billboards and restrictions, limitations, really to digital signage as well. Just making sure that as we move forward, we have done all that we can do to address, I'm just going to call it blight, advertising blight within our community, because it's my opinion that it does not add to the uniqueness of our community. It does not differentiate us from other communities. So I just want to ask that question. As far as distance requirements, if that helps pinpoint what I'm looking at.
Well, we did not make any changes to our existing
Distance requirements
throughout the ordinance. We kept all of that information as it is existing. It was really making it easier to find and understand for both staff and the users.
Yep.
You know, with billboards, there are certain state restrictions from a distance standpoint that we have to observe. You know, I feel like up until recently, we have not had a great call for an addition of billboards. And I think throughout most areas of the city, where we have them are about the only locations that physically you could put them under our ordinance. So I don't know that I see.
And then subsequently,
Yeah.
LED and those types of signs are also independently restricted by state law with regards to distance requirements in between those types of signs. Those restrictions, would apply the same. I mean, the city would look at those when considering, permitting and that types of things. But in terms of the restrictions, distance requirements, the locations, they all remain the same. I do believe we have the appropriate restrictions in the ordinance moving forward to address any of those types of signs.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Hunter?
Yes, mine is contextual stability. The review for any constitutional challenges, have all constitutional challenged words, phrases, etc. been addressed and strengthened.
Yes, I believe we've gone through and John and I have gone through, I think at least each other, sending it back and forth through rereads to make sure, that any type of, I guess you could say, questionable language as it pertains to a permitted sign would be removed, and that the definitions and the terminology used throughout would be found to be constitutional and upheld by a court of law.
Okay, awesome. Just want to make sure. I know we can't hit everything, but we want to be potentially proactive.
And Mayor Pro Tem, I would add to that would be pending any future litigation that may impact ordinances statewide. And I think that's having a revised ordinance is helping us catch up to some things.
Mhm.
But, tomorrow there could be another judgment that could impact it. We could be right back in here scratching our heads and looking at the same thing. But I think I agree with Brian that I think we've got a pretty good feel for where things are right now.
Okay, awesome. You all did an awesome job on this, as a matter of fact.
Yes, and I would reiterate that and just thank you for making sure we're buttoned up where we need to be buttoned up and moving forward.
Any other questions or comments? I have one. Have this been, I can't say vetted, or has it been made available to all our sign corporation, advertising corporations here in the city?
Yes, sir.
They have? Okay,
Yes, we've sent it to Lamar and BC,
all right.
and it's been properly advertised
Multiple times.
in advance of today's public hearing
All right, okay.
in the newspaper.
I know last time they commented they didn't get a chance to take a look at it, but, all right. Okay, thank you. There's no further questions from Mr. Hunter. Thank you, Ms. Hunter. We will now open this up to, as a public hearing. In the public hearing, you can come forth and speak for or against the granting of this, the approval of this amendment to our chapter for our zoning, particularly the signs and advertising. When you come forth, please state your name and state your address, and I will give you 3 minutes to speak. Madam Clerk, will you please monitor the chat room to see if there's anyone in the chat who would like to say something as well? So we get everybody. All right, so the floor is now open for anyone who would like to come forward and speak for or against the approval or non-approval of this amendment to chapter 23 of the Code of City of Brunswick Ordinance pertaining to zoning, particularly about signs and advertising. Wow, no one's rushing up here. So I'm hearing crickets again. Anyhow, Madam Clerk, is there anyone in the chat room who would like to speak?
No one in chat, Mayor Harvey.
Okay. Therefore, no one's come forward. I'm going to declare the public hearing closed. And commissioners, this item is brought before us And it's been advertised and it has been vetted through all our corporation that deal with signs and advertising. And now it's right here with us. Mr. Hunter has given us an overview of what it entails, realizing that we have worked on this for quite a while as well. We gave him our inputs as well, and now has been vetted and has been incorporated into this new document that's being presented to us today. So, commissioners, are there any questions or comments? And if so, if not, I'll entertain a motion as well.
What?
Yeah, is this not being?
This would just be the
this
closing.
comes up for a vote
Right.
later in the
Item number
agenda.
9, I would present as
Oh, okay. So
for
all right.
approval.
All right. I apologize. Moving a little farther ahead of myself. So, all right, we will entertain this item for approval later on in our meeting tonight. Thank you, Mr. Hunter. Appreciate that very much. All right, we'll move right along, commissioners. Item number 3, alcohol beverage license renewal. Consider approval of 2 alcohol license renewal. 5 De Mayo Mexican Grill and Tropical Island Grocery. The owner for De Mayo Mexican Grill is Abel Garcia. And the owner of Tropical Island Grocery is Samil Patel. I imagine Ms. Mundy, are you presenting?
I am, sir.
Okay.
Good evening, commissioners. This evening, there are the 2 businesses that are renewing their alcohol license, as Mr. Mayor has indicated. Their license for 5 De Mayo is an on-premise consumption of beer, wine, distilled spirits with Sunday sales. And Tropical Island Grocery, their license is for a retail sale of beer only. The owners and the managers have completed background checks and fingerprinting. Nothing has been found that would prevent them from obtaining a renewal license. And I present this for your approval.
Questions, Commissioner, for Ms. Mundy? One question, since these are renewals, there has been a change in ownership?
No, sir.
The commissioners?
We haven't had any incidents at either one of these establishments, have we?
No.
I'll make a motion that we approve both alcohol license renewals for Cinco de Mayo Mexican Grill on at 2809 Glen Avenue and Tropical Island Grocery at 2500 Norwich Street.
Second.
There's a motion second for the approval of both of these items, these establishments for renewal of their alcohol beverage license. Are there any further questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same right. Not hearing anything from the opposing side. I believe the ayes have it. That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Y'all have to know.
What was that? Item number 4, item to be considered for approval. Consider approval of October 6, 2021 work session and regular scheduled meeting minutes. Those items were in our package. We need a second to peruse, please do so, but after which I'll entertain a motion, please.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion second for the approval of October 6, 2021 work session and regular scheduled meeting minutes. Further questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposes? Nothing from the opposing. I believe the ayes have it. That motion carries. Thank you, commissioners. All right, moving right along. Item number 5, consider approval of the execution of a memorandum of understanding between the city of Brunswick and the Golden Isles Development Authority. Mr. Hill is presenting. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mayor. Thank you, and commissioners. You'll recall that earlier this year, the Department of Treasury announced the American Rescue Plan Act funding that would come out. Staff Dylan Lukich and I started reviewing the Treasury guidelines to see what these funds could be used for. We worked with the city manager and the finance director, and one of the items that the funds could be used for is grants and loans to small businesses. As you know, many of our small businesses were adversely affected by COVID-19. So we looked at what kind of programs we could develop for them. In the end, we came up with 3 programs: a revolving loan fund for businesses to make purchases, but then also develop relationships with banks. We discovered many businesses did not go for the PPP loans because they didn't have a prior lending relationship. So this program is designed to get the businesses in a relationship with their banks. There's also a property stabilization, which is a revolving loan to help get some of our underutilized spaces back into productive use. And the one that this MOU pertains to is the Business Relief Grant, which is for innovation expansion and workforce development. As we develop these programs, the city manager asked if we could make these available to businesses citywide. And while we can't, the DDA can't operate outside of its district, of course, the Department of Economic Development, Travis Steagall, can operate in the city as a whole. So Travis is well able to handle the programs, except the grant is a little tricky with, depends on which attorney you talk to. Grants can be a little tricky with cities giving grants. So we felt the cleaner way to do it would be to contract with the Golden Isles Development Authority, who can give grants. They would only be involved on the grant process for businesses outside of our district, and they would only receive funding as a pass-through to the business. So if Travis's review committee recommends that Mayor Harvey's Donut Shop get a grant, then that approval would go to the Golden Isles Development Authority along with the funding for that grant. So this MOU allows the 2 groups to work together to fund just that one program for businesses outside of our area.
The donut shop grant would obviously have to be after December 31st, if that is something that is.
Correct.
But I actually thought you said a gun shop. I thought you said. So I was just okay, cool.
There's no bias there.
No. This is, or I'm asking for the commission to approve the memorandum of understanding. The Golden Isles Development Authority has already approved it at their last board meeting, and it's been executed, and also to have the mayor execute it tomorrow. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Hill, commissioners?
I had questions earlier, but I got my answers, but this is a statement primarily. And I want to see this, and I want to see this diligently pushed and advertised throughout the city of Brunswick with potential town hall meetings, whatever other avenues, not just the same old methods that we have been employing for some time now, but some other methods to really hit those small businesses that are outside of the downtown area, because I do get a lot of information and a lot of calls regarding the lack of potential for those businesses that are outside of the downtown area, and the structuring and the, for lack of a better word, nurturing of the strengthening of those small businesses outside of the downtown area. And so I'm going to be looking for this specifically to make sure that we are overly active in making sure that all of these other businesses, and not taking anything away from downtown, because I love downtown. And I know that we always have a focus on downtown, but we need to broaden our focus and make sure that we are having a long arm to reach every business out within the city limits of the city of Brunswick.
Well, Mayor Pro Tem, thank you for that urging and that those comments, because that is something that we have, I think, the city has struggled with in terms of trying to make sure of the inclusiveness of all the businesses. And I will speak with the chamber and with the Golden Isles Development Authority to see what assistance they can give us in marketing and contacting businesses and getting the word out. I know Travis also has a network of information that we can get get information out to. And I have worked with the Forward Brunswick group, and they have been very eager to provide assistance to the city to help with businesses applying for the grants and loans and things like that. So there we'll have a lot of conversations, but I do appreciate your diligence in urging us to, be more inclusive in our marketing efforts and our assistance and nurturing to the businesses outside of downtown.
I think this covers a pretty broad area. It's not just the typical Newcastle Gloucester. It's Norwich Street. It pervades well into our community, if I'm not mistaken. So,
well, it's citywide, but I think to Mayor Pro Tem's comments, sometimes, businesses just don't hear about things that are being done. And we really want people to take advantage of the programs that are there. So we really need to kind of have a better grassroots effort of, getting that information out. We'll, have social media as well as some other avenues, but try and put on a very, outreaching marketing plan for it.
Right.
Okay.
And reaching out to some of these nonprofits and stuff that do business counseling, the Black Business League, BBL, some of these other nonprofit organizations that have reach or go into areas that we don't normally go into, or that I've not seen the city go into.
Well, if you have any contacts, please email those and send those to me so that I can have someone reach out to them.
I definitely will.
yeah, I think that would be great. And certainly to the degree that we can push it out through NPAs. And as Mayor Pro Tem Harris said, any other avenues, the more you can publicize, the more opportunities there are for people to take advantage of it. Yeah.
And Mayor Pro Tem Harris, in that vein, we have made one application portal for these programs, regardless of whether you're in the downtown area or the city as a whole. And there is a link on the first page of the city website in the banner at the top. Businesses can go right there and click on it, and the pre-application is available right there. So, but we will also look to spread the word wider.
Awesome, because I know when we did that micro business, that workshops that Travis did a couple of summers and stuff, and really, I mean, to really find out how effective that really was, because we don't hear anything else about that program or the success or the businesses that are still in business from that, having had that opportunity. And so where is the follow-up with that effort and stuff? And I mean, because that stuff has gotten lost, and we've expounded resources on that, but we have no tracking of the success. So if we're starting this and we're helping people and we're expanding those resources, there should be some continued tracking of those efforts.
I've got a question. Are we going to have a date that these loans will be sunset and these grants, or is it until the money runs out?
The grant will be until the money is fully expended. The revolving loan funds can continue as long as the loans get paid back. The purpose is for them to be reloaned. Now, in the
Good.
future, we may want to change some, as COVID goes behind us, hopefully, we may want to take out some of the COVID requirements from those programs, but we want these revolving loans to last for many years.
Great,
The
great.
thing is, there is a, requirement by the ARPA funds as far as commitments to be made by 2024 and expenditures to be completed by 2026. And I'm not sure how that will impact. I think if we have loaned out money by the time that it's done, then that's fine. But at some point, we may have to pull some of the money out of this program if it has not been expended based on the requirements for the ARPA. But we'll keep the commission informed on those issues.
Right.
Awesome.
And because we're a qualified census area, we do get some additional leeway with how we can use these funds. So we're hoping to get all of these funds out as grants or loans, and we already have 6 applications.
Great.
Downtown area or throughout the city?
We have how many? 4 downtown and 2 in the city as a whole.
Yeah, well, let's
And
push
to
it
your-
out to our people, to our folks, to let them know what's going on so they can have an opportunity to apply for this and let them know that we are trying to help them in all the things that we can help them with.
Yes, definitely. I know we get a lot of crying out for that. So, I mean, the way that you can to just make sure people have the opportunity to put in for this, because, then once that opportunity is presented, then, people can't come back and say, well, we didn't know, we didn't have the opportunity. So let's make sure people know and that people have the opportunity.
Sure. Well, commissioners, this program is a good program, and as you can see, we're trying to help all our citizens of the city of Brunswick, realizing that we have downtown is getting a rebirth or getting revitalized, and now let's continue to do that throughout the city. When we came on board 7 years ago, we put together our priorities, and one of our priorities was downtown area. Then we was gonna go do the inner city. It's taken us a while to get the downtown to go, but now we're here. We've gotten it on its feet, so to speak, and now we reach out and bring along our inner city as well, especially our businesses. We want to do a lot of businesses during the time. We talked about that, so now we have the opportunity to do that. Really, COVID having stricken us. However, where we are, we will make do with what we got and try to make it even better. So without saying that, any other comments? All right, I will entertain a motion on this, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we approve, I guess it's called the Back to Business Brunswick MOU.
Second. Oh, or second, I'm sorry.
Motion second for the approval of the execution for the memorandum of understanding between the city of Brunswick and Golden Isles Development Authority. That's basically what it is. The Back to Business program. Are there any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposers? Hearing none, I believe the ayes have it. Thank you. That motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, moving right along, Commissioners. Consider approval of the request for proposal for the new fire aerial truck. Our chief of the fire department, Chief Mobley, is here to present. Hi, Chief.
Wonderful, sir.
Thank you. Oh, my goodness, look at that.
Y'all don't get to see this, but it's beautiful.
Tell you, Mayor, I'd sure hate to see you retire before we get that thing. That'd be a nice toy to take you.
Yeah, well, please bring me back and let me go up.
We sure will.
For a minute. I
Well,
promise I have my insurance, everybody. I wouldn't go up there sue the city or anything. Go ahead, sir.
The Brunswick Fire Department would like to update our current aerial. It's not what we have now. It's not really an aerial. It's a Quinn. It's kind of a half ladder, half pumper truck. It's just a regular pumper truck with a short ladder on top. And with the current hospital that's been enlarged and the apartments coming, and there's several things at the ports we've had. Even Monday, we had a fire. We could have used a ladder tower, but the current one, it's an 05. And so by the time this new one is built, it'll be about 18 years old. And we'd like to use money from the conference center project to keep from raising taxes to get one. We're going to have one pretty soon. And the newer trucks, they got buckets. Ours is just a ladder you climb, kind of like we call them sticks, but they're just a straight 75-foot ladder you have to climb. And this new one would have a bucket. It'd be 100 foot. It worked really great. The old one's just unsafe and it's not as secure as these new ones, and those new buckets, you can ride in them and they're smooth and got all kind of safety stuff on them, and you feel comfortable, and they just work really well. But they're expensive. And I think we just got a prime opportunity now to be able to purchase a new aerial tower with the conference center funds that we haven't spent yet. And that's about it.
You said this will reach basically up to 100 feet?
Yes, sir.
That's how many stories? I'm just kind
Well, straight up, that'd be about 10 stories, but you couldn't quite reach 10 stories because you have to park off from the building and go in at an angle. So probably 8 stories, something like that, 7.
So easily 4, because that's 4 to 5 is the maximum height that we have in our ordinances, I believe.
Well, St. Mark's Tower is a 6. I think the hospital is about 7, maybe. And it's a pretty tall building. One of the problems with some of the buildings is you can't get close enough to them with the short ladder that we have. So you have to park away from the building. So this 100 foot will give us a little more reach. It's not just vertical, it's horizontal also.
So my question, if Commissioner Williams is done, is whether or not this falls within the appropriate legal requirements of the conference facility SPLOST money, reallocating these funds.
Well, if you recall, that money upon the vote of infeasibility of the project by the city commission and county commission, and then the vote by the citizens of the county to repurpose the money for the reduction of ad valorem taxes. After that vote, we amended our MOUs that the money would be placed in the city's general fund for the purposes of reducing ad valorem taxes. The city manager and I met on several occasions to discuss, the cost and the potential raising of the millage that would be required to purchase this fire truck. I think everybody knows this particular ladder truck was identified as a potential future SPLOST list item. And in looking at that and how other communities throughout the state of Georgia have utilized funds that have been deemed infeasible for the reduction of ad valorem taxes, it seemed like it would be the best case scenario to avoid the increase of any millage related to the necessity to purchase this truck, which would essentially be deeming the purpose of reducing ad valorem taxes by avoiding that raising of the millage. So that is what the city manager and I talked about, and based on what I've reviewed through GMA and other communities, that is an appropriate use so that we can avoid use them for the purpose of reducing ad valorem taxes. I think.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's important for our taxpayers to hear that information so they have a better understanding. I appreciate it.
Although it's difficult, it's tough we shouldn't even be considering the conference center funds anymore. There have been multiple, steps away from that project that was deemed infeasible long ago, and a vote by the full, citizens of the county said, time to repurpose. So.
And one of the things that I think is important to know is that this is a significant, expenditure. And it's going to take a long time to get the truck in place. And as you know, we've had some recent incidents where we definitely would have used this equipment. So even though I won't say it's a significant urgency, I think with the time frame that it takes to get a truck in place, it is something that we want to move, forward to get done.
What is the quoted delivery time?
About a year and a half.
Year and a half? Thank you.
Yeah, well, we should have ordered this a while back, but I think this is a step in the right direction, and I appreciate everybody who's made the efforts to bring it forward.
Any further comments? I'll just say, our fire department bays are
They're big enough. The new bay we had built for the trucks.
altered to handle this truck.
Yes.
I was gonna ask that question too, and this is gonna be housed at the downtown station.
Yes, sir. Downtown.
Okay.
New bay that's just been built.
Well, we are getting loft apartments downtown and other places. Our height for our buildings are 60 feet. So this will be great. Hopefully, we won't have a need for it, but it's best to have it just in case. Yeah, so I think that's great. And also the fact that we are doing something with that money that we're sitting there trying to get this conference center. To me, it's a great trade-off that we're putting that, so the people of the city of Brunswick can see that we have done something with that money, and they can see it's something that's going to help benefit all of us. Conference center may have, may not have, but the fire truck will benefit all of us, keeping us all safe. And thank you, Chief, for presenting it to us.
Randy, this is a Pierce. Where is it going to be manufactured?
Well, we don't know yet. We'll have to send it out for bids.
You're using their specifications?
No, sir. We pretty well have our own specifications that most any of them can meet.
Yeah, we will revise that to make it,
Okay.
we're sending it out for bids.
I see the picture says Pierce.
Yeah, we should have probably took that off, but it was just one of the pictures I had. I just wanted y'all to have an idea of what it looked like. It was just the only picture I had of a recent aerial.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we got a good one here. Yeah, okay. You got that one. Okay, I see it. Okay, commissioners, if no further comments, what's our will and pleasure to deal with this new fire aerial truck?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we move forward with the new ladder truck for the city of Brunswick Fire Department.
I got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second.
Thank you. Probably motion second for approval of the request for a proposal for the new fire aerial truck. Are there any further comments or questions? Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on this, please.
Commissioner Cason,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Harvey.
Yes. Thank you, commissioners. That motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Williams, you got a comment?
I would just wanted to ask Chief, did he know the number of dealerships that we'll send this out to? Is it gonna be somewhere I know there's a couple of places in Florida, other places, I didn't know.
There's 3 or 4 that we usually send them out to when we send fire trucks, pumpers, or aerials out for bid, and we'll just use those same ones, maybe a couple more too, but Mr. Cason was right. Pierce is one of the top, aerials, but they all make them, and so they're all pretty good. We just look at their specs and the lengths of the truck. It's going to be important. Driving it in these city streets is going to be kind of tight for 100-foot aerial platform, those 100-foot ladders, they have to be long trucks. And if you look at that picture of the behind those rear tires, there's a lot of trucks sticking out. So if you're going down North Street, you won't be able to make that turn on L Street, but if you have to make a right turn and there's a car in the turning lane on your left, you have to be real careful because that tail swing will knock that car back over in another lane. So it requires a lot of training. So, you know, it's going to depend on all kind of stuff like that.
How about Union Street? Will it motivate on Union Street?
No, sir.
You're gonna have to cut some trees?
I don't know about cutting trees, but the aerial that we have right now, the Quint, it won't make it down Union Street either. If you can see real well in the daytime and the limbs aren't, you know, real wet and sagging, it might make it, but it has a hard time going down a lot of our streets. So.
Wow.
But this truck here will pretty well go where the truck that we have now will go.
They just keep getting bigger, don't they?
Yes, ma'am, they sure do. We don't like it. But we can't wait to take all y'all up for a ride in that 100-foot aerial. You'll be able to see all over.
Cancel that ride.
Y'all enjoy it. You'll feel safe.
Well, I'm going to ask a question, and it doesn't necessarily have any relevance on this decision, but does have relevance moving forward. In light of the size and the length of fire safety vehicles, are we planning for the future? In other words, you know, are we pinpointing areas that we need to have perhaps a new fire station? Are we acquiring property? Are we looking at everything that needs to be looked at in order to accommodate our growing population and strategic location of fire stations and the ability to handle the size of the fire trucks these days?
Well, we do in the Brunswick Fire Department. I'll give you, for instance, right now we're going through our ISO survey. We're a class 1 ISO rated department. We have 96 out of 100 points, and hopefully we're going to keep that ISO rating. And I'd like to see it improve a little bit, but we have 2 fire stations and we're staffed for 42. If we have 42, I think we're down to about 30 now. And you compare us with Valdosta, they're staffed for I think about 80 firefighters, and they have 6 or 8 stations, about the same square miles, a few more square miles in Brunswick. And so they spend a lot of money on their fire department. So it kind of depends on what you want to spend, but really here we're getting a class 1 ISO rating with 96 points, and Valdosta with twice as many people and 6 fire stations, 6 or 8 fire stations. I think it's 8 fire stations. They have only 94 points, 92 or 94 points. So I think we're doing a really good job. We try to be pretty thrifty, I guess, with the taxpayer money, and hence our CAN program, just everything we can do to try to save money. One thing our smoke alarm program's done is reduced our fire deaths. We did finally have, regretfully have one just a couple of weeks ago after several years of not having one. We used to have them every year. So the smoke alarm program's working. It's just, we're not a normal fire department. We're a little proactive, and we believe in prevention, and we're real close to the community, and we just, we don't mind doing whatever it takes to keep the community safe and do it with without having to spend a whole lot of revenue. But yes, in the future, if we keep growing, it would be nice to have a couple more fire stations, but of course, that's our pipe dream right now.
Chief, for point of
that was my main
clarification,
point. Yeah.
For point of clarification, why were you comparing to Valdosta?
It was just one that the ISO folks was talking to us about the other day.
Oh, okay, because their population is probably 3 times ours, and I was just kind of trying to figure out. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, their run, their population is they have a few more runs every month than we do, but not a whole lot. So So we're doing pretty good with what we have.
And I would say so. Y'all doing an awesome job. And my question was never geared in that direction. It was just merely planning for the future, because my hats are off to everything that y'all do, our fire and our police. Y'all do an awesome job protecting our community. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, I think so too as well, Chief. And to Commissioner Martin's comment, I think I believe she may be referring to as the city grows, the city needs to think about how they build the infrastructure, such as making a lot of our Georgia Power, our power lines underground instead of being where they are. Our tree canopy cut back so we can get to our streets wider. Just something of that nature. I think when we do our planning, that's something that will be in consideration of planning for the future. I think that's something that I'm pretty sure that City of Brunswick will be doing. Yes, we will be looking out for safety, public safety of all our citizens, and also making it easy accessible for our safety vehicles to navigate to get to those events that occasionally happen in our city.
What we would really like to see done is be able to annex some more of the county property into the city so we can expand a little bit. That would be those county businesses and homeowners could get that Class 1 insurance, ISO rating on their insurance too.
Well, we're trying to work on that. We've been working on that for 7 years. We're still working on that one.
There you go.
Okay. Well, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioners. All right, let's move right along. Item number 7, consider approval of agreement with Goodwin Mills Kaywood for project design and grant administration supporting the Georgia EPD 319 grant for GILID retrofits in Brunswick. Mr. Albertson is presenting, sir.
Yes, sir, I'm here. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
If you remember last week, we discussed, y'all ultimately approved a grant agreement with EPD for a 319 grant for a green infrastructure and low impact development retrofits, and that's runoff reduction improvements at 3 different sites in town. The fire station parking there, the Lanier Bridge or Lanier Park infiltration basins, and parking at Goodyear Park. So this item here is simply the agreement with Goodwin Mills and Kaywood for the design of those structures and the grant administration there. I have Goodwin Mills and Kaywood is one of our pre-qualified engineers, and they have significant experience with green infrastructure and these type of improvements, runoff reduction measures. And I've included the couple of budget sheets from the grant. This agreement is in the amount of $60,000. Of that, $12,000 would come out of our pocket. And so, I'm sorry, the agreement is in the amount of $64,000, and $12,000 of that would come out of our pocket the way that the grant is structured. So, so that's it. It's pretty straightforward grant agreement. So we're just asking for approval of that agreement with Goodwin Mills and Kaywood.
Commissioner, remember this was brought before us at our last meeting concerning this agreement. Do you have any other further questions or comments?
I have one question. How soon they gonna get started to work?
Probably next week.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Mr. Albertson? Okay, I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Goodwin Mills Kaywood in the amount of $64,000 for design and grant administration associated with the Georgia EPD 319 grant for GILID retrofits in Brunswick.
Second.
There's been motion and second for the approval of agreement with Goodwin Mayors, Mills, Kaywood, in the amount of $64,000 for the project design and grant administration of the Georgia EPD 319 grant for retrofits in Brunswick. Any further questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none from the opposing side, I believe the ayes have it, and that motion carries. Thank you, commissioners. Our next item on the agenda is consider approval of agreement with EMC Engineering Services, Inc. for project design of Phase 2 improvement at Mary Ross Waterfront Park. Mr. Albertson, you are presented again.
Okay, as you know, there was a master plan completed at Mary Ross Waterfront Park, completed in about 2015, for overall development improvements at the park. And that the master plan kind of divided or scheduled the improvements in several phases. Phase 1 of that master plan was improvements to the dock, or structural updates to the dock, that kind of thing, which has been completed. We did that a couple of years ago. Phase 2 of this master plan includes access and accessibility of the park, water and landward access, and other improvements. And then there are other future phases designated within the park. So that we did designate some money to set aside for Mary Ross Waterfront Park in SPLOST 6. So based on the amount of money that we have available, we've just made the decision to go forward with the landward side of the improvements, of the access improvements in Phase 2 at this time. And the 4th page of your packet there includes the improvements that we'll be looking at in this project. Those are the parking area along the Gloucester Street between the park and the Ports Authority building, making improvements to that area, an entrance feature, an entrance arch as you drive in, parking improvements there, pedestrian improvements out at the railroad track to help pedestrians have better access to the park. It will also include resurfacing of the existing concrete dock that was not done with the subsurface improvements or the underside improvements a couple of years ago. This would include resurfacing the dock, installing a handrail along the dock, improving the fishing area towards the south end of the park with maybe some shade, fish cleaning station, those kind of things. And then extend that brick plaza that's between the pavilion and the dock. As you know, it extends about halfway to midway of the park. We would extend that all the way down and tie into that Gloucester Street improved parking area to provide a better pedestrian access there. That's pretty well the scope of this project. The amount of this agreement is $58,300 with EMC Engineering, and between available SPLOST money from SPLOST 6 and other available capital funding, there's approximately $450,000 available now to begin these improvements. Again, on this, and the EMC is ready to begin as well with this project. They can probably start as early as next week, and we've asked them to go ahead and accelerate the design on this thing. We'd like to have this thing ready to go out for construction bids in the spring. So we're going to try to push this thing on through and get this project moving. So I have also I know that also Lance Saby, I believe, is in the crowd there tonight. And he's representing the Forward Brunswick group. And I'm not sure if he has any comments about their potential involvement and support of this project as well, if you'd like to hear from him.
Well, I think it would be important. This has been a very protracted project. We knew it was going to be a multi-phase project to begin with, but we have very little to show. And I think it's really important to make sure that as we go forward, we still have the consensus of those who participated in the public process of identifying what amenities and opportunities our residents wanted and our citizens wanted in that park, because it's our one big shot at providing access to the water for the public right here in the heart of downtown. So I really don't want to overlook that aspect, and I want to make sure that a lot of the things and amenities that our residents and constituents wanted to see are going to be incorporated, because we've had a long period of time where we have not really been able to show much for what's going on there. And I think that's very important, and I would hope that we would hold true to that as a commission.
Okay. Any other comments? Mr. Albertson, I was looking at this proposed picture you sent us, and I see F Street goes into Gloucester Street, coming out of the Mary Ross Park parking area. Are you saying you want to extend that island median all the way down to the waterfront? Oh, that's what you was talking about doing? That little piece. It's hard to turn left coming out of going south off of F Street.
No, so we're not including any improvements to the F Street or that F Street and Bay Street intersection as part of this, the scope of this project right now. We're more focused on the southern end of the park at the Gloucester Street entrance coming into the park.
Right, well, it would be good to take a portion of that out so people can cross over to, instead of going all the way down, making a right, going all the way down and turning completely around and go up. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Because F Street tees right at that median, and people sometimes have a tendency to go in the wrong lane just to get out. There's something to look at, maybe a traffic study.
We'll definitely take a look at it.
Okay, well, please do. That's great. Any other questions, comments, Commissioner? I'm just glad we get doing, as Commissioner Martin stated, we're doing something with Mary Ross Park. We've been talking about it. We did a lot of charrettes back in a couple of years back when, and people actually told us what they want to see what happened in this park. And we finally been able to try to do something. We put a playground equipment there, has been tremendously used there. Also, I want to mention that we dedicated a playground at Howard Cochran Park too, as well, yes, which was really, really great. People began to use that as well. So hats off to our city manager, hats off to Mr. Albertson, also Mr. Nelson, our projects manager as well, for getting things done.
Garo, on the pedestrian crossing improvements, what are those improvements going to be?
You're just asking what that improvement would be?
Yeah, I mean, how's that going to be improved? What are we doing in that particular area that's going to make that better for crossing?
Just make it trying to make it a little smoother and easier to get across. Right now, it's the asphalt is, I don't know how you say, kind of upheaved there. I guess the train wheels have kind of upheaved that asphalt. It's very rough. There's a lot of gaps in there. So it's very difficult to get across for somebody that may have disabilities there. So I know they make, there's a type of a grid product I've seen in some railroad tracks that kind of helps smooth out that crossing and provide a better, just a smoother walking surface across
That's
there.
the
to
metal
get
plate, Garrow.
I think some of them are steel plates. Yes,
Yeah,
sir. Kind
yeah,
of between those tracks. And
yes, that would be wonderful.
right
That-
now, it's
That's
not
a long
at
time
all.
coming, because that crossing is deplorable. And I mean, I'll be the first to say CSX and Norfolk Southern has really not treated our community well. And
Well,
I
that's
don't mind.
true at any railroad track that crosses, Julie. We've not done a good job as a city either. Let me tell you, I have tried as long as I've been elected to get them fixed, and there's no traction there. It's got to come from within. It's got to.
It's pathetic. I mean,
I can look at the Brunswick News, how many times I've been in there, and we still don't have it done. You know, it's been 12 years.
the sidewalks do not align for street crossing. If you're in a chair, you cannot get across. If you're pushing a baby carriage, a mobile unit of books, which quite often the library would like to participate in a Saturday morning open market and bring books over, and they can't get their rolling cart across the railroad tracks.
That metal plate will take care of it. It really will. I'll tell you something else. Go down to Greenwood Cemetery and try to cross those railroad tracks too. It's just wrong. It really is wrong. I pulled my hair out with it, and I wish somebody else would pull theirs out with it. It's a problem. It's a big problem.
My
We
question,
can take care of Mary Ross Waterfront Park, I believe, excuse me, with that metal plate transitioning. That's all I've got. Thank you.
my question to Garo was, is there gonna be any type of, I'm thinking about this crossing the street. When you say pedestrian crossing improvements, is there gonna be, any flashing lights or anything that's gonna stop traffic for people coming across those 4 lanes of traffic?
Well, right now there is a pedestrian actuated signal there, that rectangular rapid flashing beacon
Yeah,
is in place there.
I thought that was on the north end of the park.
There's one at Fan at Gloucester.
Okay.
Well, the design that we're talking about is going to be contained within the park. There will be some at that entrance, but most of it will be down that corridor right by the Port Authority. We are trying to, or will want them to make some adjustments to their driveways there as a part of this, but I think we will have to push a little bit more to get all of that pedestrian traffic mitigated through the other processes that we're doing with the Bay Street corridor study.
Well, I would just kind of, like to see it be able to be connected to the First Friday activities and things of that nature, so that would all connect all of downtown. So we'll get there.
Yes.
Yes, we will. Okay, Commissioner, any other comments from Mr. Iverson? All right, we have this item before us to consider with agreement with EMC Engineering Services for project design of our phase 2 improvements for the park. What's your will and pleasure, Commissioners?
I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with EMC Engineering Services in the amount of $58,300 for design and engineering of improvements at Mary Ross Waterfront Park.
Second.
It's been motion second for approval of agreement with EMC Engineering Services for the project design of phase 2 improvements of Mary Ross Park. Are there any further questions or comments?
Just be sure the fish station gets put in there. We're still working on fish stations.
So this is for the engineering and design. It's not for the completion of the work, is it?
No, so this is not construction. We would like to have a target of spring, probably March, early April, to go out for bid for construction.
All right. Understand.
Any other questions or comments?
I didn't know if Lance Saby had any words that he might want to speak at this point.
Well, he does. He's sitting here and he's requesting to speak. Commissioner, I will give him my opportunity to speak. Please step up and.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. As you know, I wear many hats in the city, so I'm here on behalf of Ford Brunswick this evening. We've had the opportunity to, over the last few months, solidify our strategic plan as an organization with the help of Ms. McDuffie. She actually participated in that strategic planning session. And we identified Mayor Ross Park as one of our key strategic goals and helping the city execute the master plan. And so we've had the opportunity to meet with city staff. I appreciate you approving. This is really the first step in getting the ball rolling in Mayor Ross Park. So I want to thank you for that. A couple of the questions the commission had this evening, I think were really good ones in addressing pedestrian access. One of the things that staff forgot to mention is part of this plan in phase 2 is to extend the sidewalk where that railroad track crossing is. So right now, if you go across the railroad track, you have to cut across the traffic flow to get to the park. So part of this phase 2 plan would be to extend an actual sidewalk all the way down on that far south end. We've also had some discussion with the Port Authority, as Garrett mentioned, and one of the key components to that and making that really pedestrian friendly is eliminating 2 of their entrance and exits and just making one large one there. So they're verbally agreed that they would agree to do that. One of the other great things in partnership with the Port Authority is they do have some grant funds for beautification. So we're hoping to elicit some of those dollars so they can, pay for some of that landscaping that would be on their property line. So that's huge. We've also, as Ford Brunswick, had the opportunity to meet with a bunch of other stakeholders, including DNR and the Convention and Visitors Bureau. So they're all supportive, obviously, of moving forward with Mayor Ross Park, and have outlined a couple things that we've had a chance to talk with the staff about in terms of just making sure that the infrastructure, as we spend dollars, will support some of these big, large events and things that we want to do as we move forward. So again, thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate you guys approving this kind of first step. I think the next thing is for us to get a bunch of stakeholders together and then figure out what 3, 4, and 5 look like. Because we really got to get a budget number, on this stuff instead of just kind of guessing at numbers. Because as Ford Brunswick, what we see ourselves is if there's a dollar shortfall, we can help with some private funding, grant resources, and things like that, trying to bring it all together. I know I've shared with Matthew and Garrett a couple DNR grants that they're rearing to spend dollars, and they already paid some grant dollars for the master plan. So that gives us some extra points when we go looking to ask for some additional dollars as well. So again, thanks for your time. We look forward to sharing more about our strategic plan and some other items that are on that list, but I think this is a great first step.
So thank you, Mr. Saby. Appreciate your comments, and knowing the fact that you willing to partner with us makes it really, really great.
Yeah, I think it's the only way we're going to make it work, right? So the city's not going to have enough money to make the park come to fruition in the next 10 or 15 years, right? And by the time we start doing stuff in 15 years, the stuff we've already done is wearing out. So we'd like to help condense that time frame and try to get some stuff done as quick as we can. And again, to Ms. Martin's point, make sure we have all those amenities. We all invested a lot of time and energy to all those charrettes and research and all that stuff. Let's just make it happen. Let's make it come to reality.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I got a question I'd like to ask Lance. I want some clarification.
Sir.
Did you say that y'all were thinking about asking the Port Authority to change their ingress and egress there coming in off of Gloucester Street?
That is correct. Yeah, and that discussion has already happened informally. But they will still come into the park. But if you look at I don't have the drawing in front of me, but you can see that there's a large entrance and exit right in line with where their guard shack is. And that's the primary one they use. So they would continue to use that, but then we would eliminate the 2 that are a little bit farther to the west. They're closer to the waterfront.
Okay, here's something that I was thinking about doing. And we always come up short with parking there. They use our parking over there when they have a boat in at Mary Ross Waterfront Park. Why don't we ask for MOU to use their parking lot there when we have events? I don't think that's ever been done. Correct. Somebody correct me if we
I
have
think
done
the
that.
situation there would be security related, because once you go past that,
Yes.
gate, you have to have a TWIC card.
Yep.
That would be the only concern there.
Well, I don't think it would hurt to ask, though.
Agreed.
I don't think at all. There's a fact that they do use our parking lot over at Mary Ross Waterfront Park. So I don't see where asking for a reciprocal would be out of the ordinary. I mean, you're probably right. But what will it hurt to ask?
Yeah, good point. And one of the other things to mention too is that, there's a archway in that design that the engineering company is going to be asked to do. So you would have a focal point as you're looking down towards the waterfront, which would be huge. And also there's some standard vehicle parking there, but it's also designed to park food trucks with outlets there so they can have access to power and that kind of thing. So again, really turning that into a multi-use area. And then once we get phase 2 done, now you have a great access to the water. Now we figure out what we do with the rest of the park and buildings and structures and stuff like that. And so. Good stuff. Any other questions? Sorry to jump in the meeting. I appreciate you giving me the time.
It's all right. Thank you for coming and sharing with us. I was mentioning that we have President, Chairman of the URA here. And is there anything you'd like to comment, sir?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say I endorse this project, and it's really good to see some momentum start to build with Mary Ross Park. As you know, we have not been very successful as a URA to get things done. We did get a playground in there, but the park definitely needs more, and it's good to see that we're moving it forward into something that everybody can be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Commissioners, you heard from I've allowed a few people to speak. They were speaking in favor of getting something done with Mary Ross Park. We have a motion on the floor. It's been second. Any further questions or comments before I ask for a vote? Okay, all in favor of let me see what this is. Consider agreement with EMC engineer for the project design of phase 2 improvement of Mary Ross Park. Please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Are there any opposers? Hearing none, I believe the ayes have it. That motion carries. Thank you, and thank you for the comments as well. All right, we are now at our city attorney items. Item number 9. This is something that we done before. I was trying to get done earlier. Consider adoption of ordinance number 1071, amendment to chapter 23 of the code of the city of Brunswick pertaining to zoning, in particular their provision relating to signs and advertising devices. Sir.
That's correct. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm going to share my screen with the most recent and final version of the sign ordinance. And of note, I mean, John has gone through pretty comprehensively of what we're doing here. One thing John was not able to put up, and I just wanted to show for ease of use, the tables that he actually mentioned, because I do think this is something that this commission has discussed and that the staff is trying to move forward, is providing this particular permitted signs and use summary. And then there's a larger, more detailed table that John and the staff at CRC have put together. I think someone coming in to look for a license or a permit for a building, alcohol license, we might look to do something like that, similar to that. But as they come into City Hall, they speak with city staff. If we give them a copy of a 17-page sign ordinance, I think that's something that this commission has discussed. I don't know if that's the way to get the information directly to the person in an easy, format. It's understandable when they're walking in. So I did want to point these out, that these tables are referenced in our ordinance and will be included when we submit it to MuniCode. They'll also be, housed in John's office and available so that if somebody comes in, it's almost like a quick reference guide. So they come in and say, I own a property here, I have this type of business, it's this type of zoning. You can cut across and see what type of signs are allowed, were used. And we hope maybe even if people will consult these guides prior to initiating any sort of action for a rezone, a business license, anything like that, they would know beforehand what their allowed use would be. With regard,
This will go on the website too, right?
yes, we will make it available on the website as well.
Thank you.
That's something John and I specifically talked about this morning. With regards to the actual sign ordinance amendment, John's hit all the points earlier this meeting, and I even discussed a little bit about it, that we've made sure to go through and come through and discuss the constitutionality of the language that's included, and just making sure that what we feel like we're going forward with is a sound product, and that it, organizes and makes more efficient. If a person did want to sit down with the 17-page sign ordinance and read it, I think even then, I'm obviously coming from a person that deals with ordinances all the time, but I would hope even then that they'd be able to look and consult the ordinance in a manner that would help them understand what, where they need to go, whether or not they need a permit. John talked about the classes that we've added that are not going to require permits. And then if they are to require a permit, what the next steps would be. This has been properly advertised because it is a planning and zoning decision under the state code. John and I made sure it was advertised in the Brunswick News on October 5th, I believe, or October 4th. I cut it out of the newspaper myself just to make sure it is in the file. And it is now in front of you for your consideration for approval. Obviously, we had the public hearing earlier.
I actually had a couple of questions, and I apologize I didn't ask them sooner. If I can go back to page 6 of our agenda, which was the public hearing portion, because I made a few notes and I forgot to bring those up. So
page 6 of the ordinance, or page?
No, page 6 of our packet. There you go. So it's on page 6 and it's number 12 up near the top, where it has reference to use of any parked vehicle or boat as a sign unless held by a licensed automobile or boat dealer as stock for retail sale or for release. So my question is, would this also include trailers? Like trailers that are attached to the back of the vehicle, taken to a location, left with a sign on the trailer that's then positioned on property. Does that make sense? It's not a vehicle and it's not a boat. It's a trailer. It's a flatbed, like a flatbed trailer that has a sign. Could be a political sign. It could be a sign for a restaurant. It could be any number of things.
I believe in other locations in our code of ordinances, we define a trailer as a vehicle. I'd have to go back and look at that. But my understanding would be, because I believe we addressed this when we did street parking ordinance, which you guys, I think was pre-pandemic. I can't give you a time frame at this point in time, but I believe, and I will go double check, that a vehicle or the definition of vehicle included trailers.
Okay, that was just something I forgot to bring up as we were going through the public hearing. Thank you.
That would have to be on private property or something like that? It couldn't be on.
It could be on private property, absolutely.
It had to be on private property. It couldn't be public right of way.
Yeah, I think this particular code section is intended for if it's located on I believe if it would be located on commercial property, like if you had a prop, well, I take that back because I believe it's in the public right of way. So if it was a car that is being advertised for sale at an alley because it is parked on the licensed premise, I believe that that would be acceptable. Like, you see how they might have decals or something along the lines of, if it was a trailer parked on the street, I believe that would be subject to review under this code. Is that answering the question?
Yes, I'm not sure it totally answers it. Because it could either be on commercial property or it could be on private property. Depends on what they're advertising. So I just want to make sure we're covered on both of those realms or those possibilities.
And this may, of course, this, as a general ordinance it's going to present circumstances that are going to be necessary to do a case-by-case analysis.
Okay.
That particular section that you're looking at now contemplates a prohibited use of a vehicle as a sign unless it was on a retail dealer's lot, essentially, or it was being driven, similar to, I think I-95 Toyota has a large truck that has decals all over it that's driven all over the place. I believe that's what that's addressing. Okay.
But this
Thank
did
you.
billboard stuff, right? The billboard signs.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Any other questions?
Brian, where
I
does
mean,
this, go ahead.
Just say that we lend that to further research and verification.
Where does this put campaign signs, Brian, in this new ordinance?
Well, again, we're attempting to avoid any sort of content-based language or restrictions. So, political, if you name something as campaign, political, those types of situations, in essence, that nomenclature is a content-based, designation. But I believe the political signs, if I'm not mistaken, John, are underneath the
They called incidental signs?
no, it would be essentially like a freestanding sign. Sorry, let me go to the
And due to their size, most political signs don't require any type of permitting. And as is typical as well, and I know from conversations we've had, Commissioner, political signs or any signs of any kind in the right of way are prohibited. So that has not changed. It's probably a little bit more clear in our ordinance, and
because there's no differentiation.
right, there's no differentiation. So any sign within the right of way that's not basically put there by the city is not allowed. That's under the current ordinance and under the proposed ordinance. And as you know, we were more proactive this year in our pre-qualifications with local candidates and providing them guidance. And Naomi helped me, and the elections board helped distribute information to all the candidates so they were clear on our requirements for signage.
Well, my position is and always will be that they should be on private property and not in on the right of way. And I can tell you that the one out on Parkwood and Altama, I don't know how many signs are out there, but that takes a lot of time for our guys to have to pull those signs up and start mowing and weed eating and whatnot. So I just looked at that one just today. And it is clean, but it's full of signs. So that means somebody had to go out there and pull those things up. And we're struggling enough right now to keep our city clean. So I'm opposed to it, and I want everybody to know that I would like to see it changed. I'd like to see us enforce our ordinances for everybody, and particularly people that are running for office. You're asking to be elected to run for an office, to enforce different kind of things, whether you agree with them or you don't agree with them.
Well, Commissioner Case, I think it's not necessary. I think we are enforcing. I think also onus bears to the candidate that's running. When they sign the affidavit, say they're running, they get all the requirements they need to do. Then we tell them about the signs as well, what they can and cannot do, and they are just not adhering to that. We also pick up their signs and keep the signs, and then they get angry with that too. Well, maybe, you know, it might be that we don't want to start fining them for violating our ordinances, because now it seems like they're running for our office and we're fining them before they even get.
Here's what we want. We want to enforce our ordinances. I don't care.
Our ordinance. Yes, we are.
That's exactly what we want to do, and we aren't doing it. We're not doing it. Go look out on Parkwood. Go look down First Ave there, and you will see that we are not enforcing. They're out there. They're in the right of way, and it's not right. We go out and pull up some person's sign that's advertising that they want to clean your gutters, but we leave those out there. And I'm gonna tell you another feature that I believe in. I think if you put one out there, the day after that election, it should be up too. I really do.
And Commissioner, we've pulled over 100 signs.
Good.
Over the last 60 days. So we are enforcing it. We're also outmanned.
Thank you for what you do. I want to make my position clear. I don't want to be unequivocal with it. So it is clear, I hope.
Your
I would
position
like
is
to
clear,
see
sir.
it enforced for everybody. Do you hear? Everybody.
Your position is clear, and
you.
hopefully, as we move forward with the elections, that we can put some more teeth into as people sign the affidavit to run for a particular office in the city of Brunswick.
Well, I think I've requested that, and I think we're further ahead with it because of that. But we just have to hit the thing a little bit harder because they're out there and it's costing us money.
Yes. Any other comments?
I'll just say it's just not attractive either, okay? But it belongs on private property.
Right.
With permission granted. Thank you.
Yes. Any other comments? Okay, no comments. I'll entertain a motion, please. We've had a public hearing concerning this. We've had it advertised. It's been in our local organ newspaper and also at the library as well. So it has been given access to our public. Now, again, like I say, the public hearing this evening, and no one spoke for or against it. So commissioners, this is something that we've been trying to get established for quite a while, or revised or updated. It's finally here on our desk to deal with it. So I will entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we approve ordinance number 1071, ordinance that pertains to our signs and signage in the city of Brunswick.
I got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Martin.
I have one comment, though. I would really like to see the city provide language reciting the ordinance regarding political signs and give it to our Board of Elections so that they can disseminate it to any candidate who qualifies to run for office.
They're supposed to have it.
We did that this year, ma'am.
Yeah.
And we will continue to do so.
Yeah,
Man, there's a big disconnect.
definitely, because I got it. Board of Election made sure that I understood that there was a city ordinance in there, what city allowed for campaign signs, and then what the county allowed. So they had both of them in there.
As I said
Yeah,
before,
I think the problem is as it trickles down to people who are putting out signs on their own have no clue. Yeah, that's the problem.
That is something that you have to go back to the candidates and say, hey, listen, if you got people just putting out signs, you need to make sure they understand what those restrictions are, where they can and where they cannot place signs.
Well, I also think too,
When I made the statement that we had made an inroad on this thing, exactly what Commissioner Martin just asked about going to the Board of Elections is what I was referring to, that I knew that you had already done. And I certainly appreciate that. I really do. I just think we've got an enforcement problem. That's all. There's a reason for that, and I understand that. We need to get over that. We really do. We need to enforce our laws.
Well, if
our bylaws, charters, whatever.
I would suggest if we pick up those signs and we said to those individuals, for every sign that we pick up that has your name on it, you're gonna pay a $5 or $10 fine, then guess what? They won't put them in the right of way, I guarantee it.
Yeah, we must take a picture of that, but they won't believe us, so. That may be coming. Hopefully, we don't have to do that. We're trying to establish goodwill with all our citizens and also with our new prospective candidates for public office in our community.
Maybe some of them are listening to this tonight. I hope so, and that's why I'm making this stance.
Yes, sir. Please continue to do so.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we got a motion, we got a second. Any further comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye and raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Do we have any opposers? Hearing none from the opposers, I believe the ayes have it. That motion carries. Thank you, commissioners. All right.
Thank you.
Item number 10, consider approval of cost sharing agreement between the city of Brunswick and Glen County. City attorney is still here.
Yes. What you have before you is an intergovernmental agreement between the city of Brunswick and Glen County regarding the unified command effort. I think everybody is relatively, from the elected officials' perspective, are relatively familiar with the unified command between the city, county, and the local law enforcement and fire, EMS, school board, the local agencies related to the McMichael and Bryan trial. One note, the agreement you have before you and on page, no page numbers, but on page 2, under the third whereas clause, under the second whereas clause, your copy identifies, it says unified command prepared an estimated budget identifying the costs related to the implementation of public health and safety plans and preparation and operations. And in parentheses, it says the trial costs. Received some feedback on this agreement, which I fully agree with. I have changed trial costs to operational costs. These aren't necessarily costs related to the trial. These aren't, the costs related to what's going on within the courthouse. I think that was probably, I don't want that to be misread. Commissioner Kaysen pointed that out earlier today, and I wholeheartedly agree. These are the potential costs related to unified command's efforts in putting forth, the plans and what might go forward as the trial progresses, and whether or not mutual aid is required, and how the breakdown of the cost might come down. I'm sure you see within this agreement, it sets forth that there'd be a split of the city being responsible for 20% of the cost, the county being responsible for 80%. Keep in mind, as these plans move forward, these are estimated budgets. There may not be a need for any of the mutual aid that has been discussed or anticipated. In doing so, the county would be the one. This is a little bit reverse of what we've done in the past on some of the cost sharing agreements, where the city would be the one receiving, reviewing, and looking at invoices. The city and county would both receive the copies of the invoices, but the payment would be made by the county, and with the city reimbursing their prorated shares of the costs. The term of the agreement goes forward until the last possible invoice, 60 days after the final invoice has been submitted, and then it would sunset. And at the last portion, there's an Exhibit A now that we have been provided by Unified Command that would identify the anticipated operational costs. The list would be salaries, overtime, lodging, per diem, fuel costs, any contractual services related to the Unified Command operational costs, additional necessary equipment if required, other miscellaneous items that might be required for the mutual aid officers, EMTs, and other individuals helping with the Unified Command, any rental of equipment for shared operational needs, and miscellaneous supplies for the operation that are shared. We all know that there's been, joint effort in going forward and preparing for the McMichael Bryan trial. And this is just something that needs to be put in place so that if there are costs related to the mutual aid and those operational plans by Unified Command, that we would have an agreement between the city and county as how they're accounted for. And I will take any questions. I'm sorry, I should say that the county is considering the same cost sharing agreement at their meeting tomorrow night.
And so Brian, how did you say that those costs are prorated?
80-20, 80 to the county, 20% to the city.
Okay.
Please be aware, this is not dealing with anything dealing with loss. This is just dealing with this particular incident right here.
That is correct.
We will be dealing with our loss negotiation next year.
Totally separate.
Right. I understand that, but it was a point that I needed to have for myself in future conversations.
Yes.
Ryan, there was only one small thing that I thought needed to be changed, and it's under the third whereas, where it refers to assets, which I think resources would be a better definition for that.
I agree.
Okay.
I'll make that change.
Okay, thank you.
And in this agreement, the county will basically front the bill and we'll have to pay them.
We reimburse them, yes.
Yes.
Okay, rather than.
But we will, right. We'll see everything as it comes through still, but they'll foot it and then we'll come back in.
Okay.
So are you, just for clarification, Ms. McDuffie, you're asking for a definition of assets, is that correct?
No, there was a word in there that was referred to as assets, and what I asked him to do was to change it to resources.
Okay.
And I think that actually more accurately reflects what we're discussing.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, any more comments? Any further comments? Okay, this agreement will be considered at the county meeting tomorrow night as well. Realizing what we have here, what's happening in our community, and we are ensuring for our public safety, and also realizing that it does come with a cost. So without further ado, I entertain a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement with the county to cost share 80-20% for the city for the trial that is mentioned in the agreement.
Second.
It's been motion been second for approval of the cost sharing agreement between the city of Brunswick and Glen County concerning this event. Are there any other questions or comments? I want to thank you for providing that information to us so we can digest it exactly as it is. All in favor, please raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Opposers have the same right. Okay, hearing nothing from the opposer side, that motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, item number 11 on the city attorney item, a permit agreement with Konica Production, Komodo Production, Inc. In the filming, I say industry.
Yes, what you have, and I'll share my screens for those that are virtual. Give me one moment. Okay. What is before you tonight is an agreement between the City of Brunswick and Camoyo Productions 2 LLC. The purpose, as you see here, and I'll go through this a little bit more detailed because I know those virtually, this is an addendum to the agreement, so it's likely it's the first time you've seen it. We did not, I didn't have it a tremendous amount of time in advance to have a final version, but I now have this final version. We've been going back and forth quite a bit with the studio's general counsel, the location manager, and myself. Matthew has also been involved and tremendously helpful in moving this forward. I think the cat is relatively out of the bag at this point, that there is a large motion picture intended to be filmed in the city of Brunswick, really in the waterfront just off of the dock at Mary Ross Park. They have asked, and what this agreement is setting forth, they've asked for the ability to use Mary Ross Park during the filming of the agreement. I think it is now in the public forum because there are DNR permits that have been issued for the use of the waterway. There's also been advertisements for extras if anyone is interested in going down and being part of the film. The agreement, this is an agreement that working actually in the past, there has not been a similar agreement to this. When we were approached, not this time, but in a previous event about filming in the city of Brunswick, I went to the county attorney's office to discuss with them. They have also had multiple films or TV shows filmed in this county in the unincorporated portions. So we got together. They were kind enough to provide me of what template that they were using. If you look, the purpose of this is providing an agreement to allow this company to film on certain sites and facilities owned by the city of Brunswick for the production of a movie currently titled Black Panther 2, filmed at the locations listed in Appendix A, which we'll look at in a moment. It is essentially Mary Ross Waterfront Park. There are provisions in here setting forth the media rights. Obviously, the media rights would remain with the studio. The location permits, again, are addressed at the end of the agreement, but it is a permit allowing them to utilize certain areas in Mary Ross Park from certain dates. Part of what we've added in, and most importantly, is there's a fee now to be filming in the city of Brunswick. This one in particular is $15,000, which shall be paid on or before October 22nd, 2021. They do not anticipate having everything mobilized by October 22nd, 2021, but they have already contacted or are in contact with certain utility companies discussing the use of how they would power certain things at Mary Ross Park. They want to have their insurance coverage of the use of the park, should this be approved, begin on October 22nd. So that's when the fee would be due. There are clauses in here, and again, I'll go to Exhibit A in just a moment, that if they were to go above and beyond the dates that are specified in this agreement, they would pay the city $1,000 per day for each additional day they require to use the park. They shall also deposit with the city a damage deposit in the amount of $5,000, which we will hold for the use of if there's any particular damage that occurs in the area that they will be filming, excuse me, using to stage for filming. Been talking a lot tonight. They will provide, excuse me, insurance in the amount of $1 million to cover. This is a standard insurance clause that would cover the city or any event that took place in the area in which they're using to stage to film. They shall indemnify the city for any causes arising out of this action. The confidentiality clause is obviously subject to our open records of meetings laws in the state of Georgia. They shall, of course, agree not to cause any damage to locations utilized. If they do, they will put it back in the way that it was before they arrived. If they leave, obviously, without doing so, we have our $5,000 security deposit. The indemnification clause I've already discussed. There's the confidentiality clause, which I've discussed, which includes the subject to the open records of meeting that is highlighted here. We assume no responsibility for any of the personal property they bring or place on the location in which they're staging to film. They have an opportunity to cure. So we have if they violate anything that is included in this permit or this location agreement, we have the ability to contact them to revoke the permit. They have a 48-hour period to cure any breach that we believe has occurred regarding this location permit.
I thought I saw something a little bit further up that said something about if the $5,000 wasn't enough for damages or whatever.
Yes, that is. Apologies, that's
There's
further.
something about us being able to recoup whatever.
Yep. Yes. If $5,000 is insufficient to cover the obligations and liability of the company under this agreement, company shall remain responsible and liable for the full extent of the same in accordance with the terms of this agreement. Which means if they left and said, hey, there is something, please, keep the $5,000 security deposit. We think you can get it. And we say that's not enough to repair whatever damage it is. They are responsible for whatever overage would result. I wanted to try to get down because I don't believe there's any other highlighting. This is the appendix A. This is the locations. October 22nd through November 8th. Again, they are not going to begin to implement or stage things on October 22nd. I think a more realistic date, Matthew might have to help me on some of these details, would be later in next week. Oh, is it Monday that they will start to stage items? Okay. So if you look here, this is the anticipated layout of what they believe. They have been in contact. They have a local, an actual local, like a resident of the city of Brunswick, who is helping and assisting and has been incredibly helpful getting these things done. She has met with Matthew, myself, and Garrow to discuss the ingress and egress of the park, the areas in which to avoid so as to not cause damage to the park, the areas that are capable of withstanding, any of the I don't know, items that they need to place there, in the areas of the park that can be utilized to help with the filming. I don't have it in front of me, and I don't have it available to you, but the majority of the filming will actually none of the filming, I don't believe, will take place in the park. The majority of the filming will actually take place outside of the park on the waterfront. And there is a whole gamut of things that they will be doing out there. If there are any questions, I'll do my best to answer. I might again have to enlist Matthew's help.
So Brian, we're being asked to close Mary Ross Waterfront Park from the public from October the 22nd to November the 8th.
They're gonna be filming at night, right?
I believe the filming will take place at night, and it's not being closed. The farmer's market will not be closed, I believe, on. Okay, farmer's market is being moved to Gloucester Street, and but yes, they're asking to use the park as a staging.
They're asking to close the park and they won't want to have exclusive use. Is that correct?
I wouldn't call it an exclusive use of the park, but they are asking to receive a permit in the same sense that an event would, like Coast Fest or Stubilee, or if there's a political, rally or something along those lines. It's the same thing that they would go forward and seek a permit to use the park. But yes, this is a more extended permit than those.
Well, will the public be allowed to use the park during this time?
Private event.
I mean, in general, no. We have a clause in there that would allow, if we provided notice, that we could still access the park.
So we need to let the public know that we're going to do this really soon. What's the day? October the 20th? That's pretty soon.
That's correct.
I mean, kids are going there to use the playground equipment, as we stated, and proud of that happening. And now we're shutting it down.
Well, I think they're gonna be filming at night,
Commissioner, and
Yeah,
also,
but are we gonna have access for the public? That's the question.
well, I understand your point.
Yeah.
I don't think there will be, I mean, there are access points, but I think they have their staging there. So it probably would not be prudent to have people roaming around. So I'm assuming that there will be, limited access, if any. But, I think this is a significant occurrence in the city. And as Brian said, we do rent out facilities for purposes. So access to the playground is going to be limited, but we have playgrounds in several other locations, Howard Coffin, Goodyear, Urbana. So it's not going to be a terrible inconvenience, I don't think.
Have we got a plan to let people know when they go down to that park that they're not supposed to be there from October the 22nd and November the 8th? Barricades? I mean, what? What are we doing?
I don't have an answer as far as what, Matthew, do you know what type of barricades they're putting up? We will make sure it's in the paper and posted on social media and our website.
Yeah,
But
you got excuse me just a minute, you got the north side of that complex too, that's going to be pretty difficult to monitor.
They will be providing their own fencing, crowd barrier type things that you've seen in larger cities when there are events, and they will be having security. I know they've tapped the Brunswick Police Department for off-duty officers. I believe also the Glen County Police for off-duty officers, as well as their own security who will be around the perimeter.
How did we come up with the fee of $15,000 for this amount of time?
That was the fee well, prior to that, there was no fee to do filming in the city of Brunswick. So that was a fee that when I looked around at what other cities and counties were including in their filming permit, that was a rather uniform fee. And that's what was selected to be placed in there.
Tyler's got a lot of money.
Tyler Perry, I think this might be a different operation, but they are housed in his building. That is correct.
Okay.
Someone would like to have a little small moment of fame too as well in the movie. So it's an opportunity for our citizens to get involved too as well, as they're asking for people to extras, I guess they're asking for.
Yes, they have it advertised. They've begun advertisements for the casting of extras. And again, they've put out their Georgia Department of Natural Resources has put out their public notices for the permits that are being provided for the waterway.
This is my question. Being that this is a significant occurrence in the city, and being that we are being asked to approve this, why is it that we're just finding out about this? Or for me anyway, why am I just finding out about this? But I'm being asked to approve it.
well, this has been kept under wraps, mainly because, when they do filming, they wouldn't even tell about the production, but we haven't had a lot of notice on it. But I think, as far as us trying to understand exactly where they want it to be, they had contacted in terms of trying to do filming here, but we haven't had a lot of, notice to get this in place.
Yeah, I mean, it was placed on, me to negotiate this, and it has been we have been back and forth for the past 5 days, just excessive negotiations and trying to get an agreement put in place so that it would be a permitted event and something that the city is compensated for and is aware of. I know it is short notice. But this is how they have been working, and that this is what they're directing their staff to try to do their best to, I guess, put it in place. I wouldn't say as quickly as possible, but from the logistics standpoint of what I've seen and what they anticipate filming in the waterway out there, is impressive that they're able to mobilize in the manner that they do, because I think this is sort of standard protocol in their industry, is to get the location, set the location, film as quickly as possible, mobilize and demobilize as quickly as possible. And based on what I've seen in meeting with them and trying to work through this agreement, I'm, quite frankly, rather stunned that they're able to logistically maneuver in the way that they do. There's also a component of some of the vessels that I believe they're using in the film, the timing, the situation and timing of how those might be available to them to film, and the location. It made Brunswick the ideal situation for them. And that's why it was sort of, we were selected and they came to us and said, this is what we want to do. I said, we need.
Okay, I understand all that, and I hear, and I do, and I appreciate your explanation. But they didn't just decide on this today, 5 days ago. That's my point.
I don't think.
And I understand Mayor Pro Tem's trepidation with that, but I also understand confidentiality and coming up with locations, et cetera. The one thing I think this has an advantage over the previous film production we had, Live by Night, is this is hopefully not going to adversely affect our merchants downtown, because it's focused primarily at Mary Ross Park, and it's for a very relatively short period of time, unlike previous filming productions that we had. And I think as long as we can communicate that and we're made whole on the back end, and nobody's harmed, businesses are not hurt, then
I would hope there'd be a positive economic.
yeah, exactly, because you got these the crew members and everybody's in town and they're eating and spending money, etc. But we do need to make sure that we communicate in advance with our community about this to the degree we can.
And I think, definitely I understand your points, but it is a very positive move. As this movie will be on location, some of, Brunswick will get credit and will be shown as film ready or film friendly. So we will get a lot of economic impact on the back end from this move. But again, we hopefully, like Brian said, he actually put this together very quickly. And next time we'll already have a template, so that won't be the issue. And we certainly will try and get the information at least quietly to the commission as soon as we can communicate it.
And I'll throw myself on the sword on that point to Mayor Pro Tem and the questions that she had. There's, as everyone is aware, there's been a tremendous amount of things going on in the city at the moment. And it has been, it should have been probably disseminated when the first time we had somewhat of a template agreement put together. It was very fast moving though, and seemingly a daily change or several changes on a daily basis. But I do, to this Mayor Pro Tem's point, I mean, we could have gotten a little bit more information out there earlier, and apologize for that. But,
understand now, this is awesome. I am totally for it. This is something we've been talking about for some time now. So this is awesome. So please don't misconstrue my being excited about this opportunity, because I am. I've known about it for a while, but I was just wondering when we were going to be told about it.
I honestly didn't. It kind of came as a shock to me, and so I don't know maybe if I had my head in the sand or not. But putting the agreement together and working, and it was working with people based in California, where I'd send them an email probably 3 hours before they even were awake, and then they might respond 3 hours after I'd left the office. It's been but it's been a good, I hope to be a rewarding situation, because I do think we have a good template put in place. And I think we would be more than prepared going forward if, people are welcome to come film if they want, I hope.
I want to say this, and I agree, and I understand everything that everybody's saying, but I have to say to you, Brian, we certainly appreciate your efforts to make this happen, because the other filming that got done here in the city, we didn't get a dime other than what, they might have left at a store or wherever, whatever, or at a hotel or whatever. But at least at this point, we are getting something. Even, it's 15,000. Well, okay, but we are getting something, and it's just a small block of time. So we appreciate your efforts.
Okay, I appreciate everybody's comments. We're gonna move right along. We could be here all night discussing this. So hopefully you've gotten your comments in, and if something pressing on your heart, you got to get out. Let me know before I ask for a motion. If not, then Commissioner, I ask for a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we approve the agreement for the Kubota. It's not Kimoyo Productions 2 LLC in the city of Brunswick.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner. There's a motion and second for the granting of the permit agreement with Kimoda Production. Kimoyo Production, for that production company, Inc.
We're gonna have to have some translations.
Let's see you pronounce it, Commissioner. Mayor Pro Tem.
Kimoyo.
That's right. She got it. Nailed it.
What?
She nailed it.
Kimoyo.
You guys are good. Took English in college. Y'all did that thing really good. Anyhow, hey, I got a motion, I got a second. Are there any further comments? All in favor, please say aye, raise your hand. Aye. Are there any opposed? None, so the ayes have it, the motion carries. Our last item on our agenda is approval of mutual aid agreement, statewide aid agreement. Our city attorney is presented again.
Excuse me. I'm also going to share this agreement because I understand this is another one that is coming in maybe for the first time that some of you guys have seen it. What this is, the statewide mutual aid and assistance agreement is an agreement that was put together by the Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency. You'll see it in that first, under Article number 1 is GEMA/HS. For the purpose of this agreement, I'd call it GEMA. What they have done in accordance with the Georgia Emergency Management Act, it's similar to like our GERMA lease pool. If anyone, if you guys are familiar with how we purchase things through the lease pool, cities and counties are welcome and encouraged to submit to this statewide mutual aid and assistance group. The county had been doing this on an every 4 years. The agreement is good for a 4-year period, and then you would need to submit a renewal. So right now, the renewal was due in 2020. So this agreement would be going forward from today's date, if approved, through 2024. The county did not renew those in 2020, but will be considering the same submission as the one you're looking at tonight at their meeting tomorrow. What it does, as I sort of gave a little bit of a blurb at the beginning of the meeting tonight, is if enacted by the city of Brunswick, that would place the city of Brunswick in this mutual aid agreement, mutual aid and assistance pool, so that if there was some event within the city of Brunswick, and would likely involve Glen County, since we do have a city and county mutual aid agreement that we approved last year, and that goes forward in perpetuity with automatic renewals, the city would be able to call to other cities and counties in this the mutual aid and assistance pool for additional mutual aid if necessary. This was something that was determined and as we looked around, obviously there's been quite a few discussions about mutual aid and the agreements that the city has in place related to if there's ever an event that took place. This could be an event from, you know, what we were looking at in terms of the operations surrounding the current trial in the county to a hurricane or any other such event like that, you know, large scale issue or catastrophic flooding, something along those lines. If the city and county are overwhelmed, then they could go to this pool, determine maybe the closest locale, which I do not know. I'm expecting that might be a question, and ask for mutual aid and assistance in rendering aid. This in general, you know, in looking at what GEMA has on their website regarding this mutual aid agreement, they strongly encourage cities and counties to be a part of this because it's a spider web of aid throughout the entirety of the state, as opposed to every year, you know, making a determination of whether or not we have agreements with Camden County, whether or not we have ones with St. Mary's, or are they adjacent to our location. This is just a blanket. If you're a part of this pool, you can call on your brethren, cities and counties and help with some sort of catastrophic event. Again, it's a template put forth by GEMA, so there weren't any real revisions necessary to it. It does state, you know, it sets forth the same kind of costs and liability as the mutual aid agreement we have with the county, where the assisting agency would pay in the same manner that they would any other officer or EMS that's providing services on behalf of that county. And they would not, you know, they would be entitled to the same immunity and the same indemnity if they were acting in their capacity as in their own jurisdiction. So it'd be akin to having a, you know, additional 10 firefighters if necessary from a local, you know, another local, I don't know, in Brantley County or any other county that's a part of this pool coming into the city. It would be almost like we have 10 additional City of Brunswick fire department without essentially having to pay them, but they would be providing additional assistance. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Thank you. You explained that very well too as well. Thank you in that providing mutual aid statewide. So the City of Brunswick will be part of that pool. We can call on cities from as far north of Atlanta, if Atlanta's in that pool or whatever like that. Or
that's correct.
Wherever, Augusta, Savannah, whatever. So they can call us too. They need help too, assistance, because we're part of that pool.
I should point out there's two appendices to the agreement that are setting forth our authorized representatives, obviously Chief of Police, Chief of the Fire Department, our city manager, and then actually they encourage, because Glen County is our, you know, our designated emergency management agency for the city and the county. Since there's only one city seat, it also names Josh Bain, who is the interim emergency management director for Glen County. He would be, you know, if we have something going on, the first person to call would be the chief of the appropriate emergency management, or excuse me, emergency departments would be Kevin or Chief Mobley, Chief Jones or Chief Mobley. And then it would fall if the city manager needed an additional request. I mean, I would have to say that it would be an absolutely catastrophic event, that it would fall back to the Glen County Emergency Management Director. And if that were the case, that he was calling on our behalf, that means there's a large scale catastrophic event that is affecting the entirety of the county anyways. The second component of this is the Appendix B. It deals with the designated fiscal officers if there are some costs related to the travel and per diem. So it just lists the finance director and city manager. And the mayor would have to sign off on both appendices and the agreement. And then we would submit this to GEMA. Hopefully, if the county approves theirs tomorrow, Josh, as the emergency management director for the county, would submit both our agreement and the county's for consideration by GEMA and have the director of GEMA sign. And apparently he has already spoken to them and they are anticipating our, if they are approved, they are anticipating our agreements. That's truly, that is all I have.
Any questions or comments, commissioners? Okay, I entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we sign the agreement, GMA agreement for mutual aid. with,
Second, we can barely hear you. A second.
Okay, it's been probably motion second for the approval of the statewide mutual aid agreements with cities around the state of Georgia as related to GMA. Any further comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Since he's taken so long, could we ask him to cancel this executive session?
Wait a minute. Do I have any opposers? Guess none. Okay, so the ayes have it. That motion carries. All right, now we are at the end of our regular printed agenda. They're in need for executive session. It's kind of late. I don't know. Is there?
I discussed with Naomi that I did have a need for litigation. I did have a conversation later that day, earlier this afternoon. I don't think there's anything pressing to discuss regarding what I believe to have been potential litigation anymore. I won't say the threat has passed necessarily, but there's nothing at the moment that I think we need to discuss. So I'd be willing to forego that and then bring it back if there is a development.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I want to make this announcement. I am a proud Bella of two twins, two babies. And so I appreciate all of your prayers.
Wow. That's great.
So
Congratulations.
she had to have an emergency cesarean, and the
He
twins
was
are
working
in.
too, I saw.
Yeah, yeah, she's not gonna be working for a little while, Johnny.
Yeah.
But the babies are doing good. They're in the NICU, so they'll be there for a little while. But they're doing good. So I appreciate all of your prayers.
Boy, girl, what we got?
Boy and a girl.
Oh, that's great.
Raiden Michael Collins and Raya Marie Collins.
That's great.
That is great.
What are their weights? Are they?
Raiden was 3 pounds, 16.5 inches, and Raya was 3 pounds, 16 inches.
Oh, well,
That's little.
prayers
Little.
definitely will be praying for them, but you know, there's so much technology now that they'll be fine.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Congratulations to you
Thank
and
you.
all family members.
Yeah, I can't wait to see pictures.
Thank you all.
Well, then you probably should get back to the twins. So I guess we should just forego executive session.
Thank you.
Ryan, we appreciate you.
I think I had a motion and a second to adjourn, I believe, wasn't it?
Yes. That was it.
So before I adjourn, I'll just say thank you all for being with us this evening. I know it's kind of long, but we did have to discuss the business of the city of Brunswick, which was very well discussed. And I'd like to invite you all to come to our next meeting as well, which will be the first Wednesday in November. Also, as I said before, we have a new HR director. Please, Commissioner, get by if you can, or send a shout out to our new HR director.
You know, I'd like to say something also about these screensavers we've got on our city computers. Regina, would you please tell whoever did that they have done an awesome job, and I appreciate it so much and look forward to looking at all these things. They're just fantastic.
Well, I think Cal is on the, he's monitoring the meeting, so I'm sure he had something.
I'll bet everybody here will echo it, because everything's just absolutely, some professional named Kyle is doing it, obviously, and it's just fantastic.
Well, good.
Yeah, y'all doing an awesome job, just period. I appreciate all of y'all.
Okay, we could be all night talking. So I'm gonna go ahead and Ask for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposes? I hear none. Okay, we stand adjourned. Love you all.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.